Hello and welcome everybody to a newly made podcast, Voices of Resistance. This podcast consists of one episode that unveils the spirit, strength and stories of Palestine. I'm your host Abdurrahman Alib, and in this brief journey we will amplify the powerful narratives of those who resist and endure. Come along with me as we explore the resistance threads that run across Palestine's rich history and culture.
My name is Akram Said Kiyani. I born in Lidda in Palestine in 1938. So this means that when the Arab and the Nakba happened, Arab-Israeli war in 1948, I was 10 years old. And I remember the day when the Jew came and they asked my father and my mother to leave the house. And they said that they suspect there is a weapons around the area, including our house, and they are gonna check the house for the weapons, and then we will come back after 3 days. So we left the house after they enforced us to do, and we spent around 3 days around the city. Then they didn't allow us back, and I remember my sister, she was 3 years, she was thirsty, and then they told us we can't return back to our city. So we moved back around the area. Some of our neighbors went to Gaza, and some of our, us and others, we went to Jordan. We went to Al-Baqa camp. And it was very tough during that time. We spent 5 days to reach Jordan. We were riding donkeys and we were eating and drinking. There was nothing to eat, nothing to drink at that point. And we stayed in Al-Camp in a tent for 6 months, and it was around winter is coming at that point. And we were suffering. We were hard to find something to eat. Then the United Nations came, they tried to help, the Jordanians tried to help, but it was very tough. Then I continued to into this camp, and I grew up there.
What have been some of the biggest challenges you faced while being an immigrant?
I mean, life outside Palestine has been tough. I mean, we've been living in a refugee camp in tents. These tents, they have no electricity, no lights. We can barely get anyone to sleep, and it's fully packed. There's barely any place to walk, and we've been dealing with struggle of money, struggle of food, and there's barely any donations. And we always miss our home back in Palestine, since we had all of our relatives and cousins there, but now we have no idea where they are. But in Jordan, the culture is very similar to Palestine, and we expect it to be a bit harder, but it is still as nice. They treat us kindly, and even with the challenges, it became a bit easier from their people as they welcomed us a lot.
Okay, so secondly, from understanding about you living in tents, how many years have you stayed in these kind of tents?
I fled Palestine when I was 5 years old. The journey took around 3 days to reach, and I have been living in the camp for about 15-16 years there.
We hope you're better at home. And secondly, we have another question. How do you define home in your words?
I mean, home can't really be explained now since it doesn't exist anymore. But if I had to, it would have been a blend of memories from Palestine and the memories that we gathered there, and the rich culture that we had. It symbolizes a connection. It's like a connected bridge between the two. Home to me is a combination from the resilience of my people and the generosity of those who welcomed us to their land.
Do you hate this feeling?
I mean, I've been living there for like 15-16 years. I'm getting used to it, but of course, I miss my home back in Palestine.
We wish you the best, and thank you. Now moving on to our next guest, Yusuf Rada. Firstly, we would like to thank God for having an opportunity to meet you. And how have you been lately? And can you express your current life under the bombing?
So really, first of all, I have to say Alhamdulillah with everything going on. Alhamdulillah that I'm like able to be having this interview right now. And like really, other than that, life has been very bad, as we all know, and like we're really suffering. But like you have to go with it, and it is what it is. And really, I don't even know if I can handle this pain. Every day's murder. Kids get put in the grave, shot for his race in the place he was raised. When peace was the only thing that he ever craved. So how can you justify what they're doing? It hurts so bad to see all the lives we lose. It feels like the world goes blind.
We feel sorry for all your losses, and we hope your life will become better. But adding on, throughout this constant genocide, what is one thing that you wish that could happen to you right now?
Really, in my personal opinion right now, I view that all I want is peace, and I don't want anything from anyone. Just want a simple case file that could help us escape from this terror.
We hope so too. Lastly, how did the displacement feel?
So the Israeli occupation basically said that they're moving to the south. Moving to the south is more safer than staying in the city and the north of the Gaza Strip. But somehow the killing didn't stop. Massacres didn't end, and bombing is crazy as hell in the south of the Strip. You need to understand that Gaza Strip is too small to call it south and north. You also need to know that the south is just 5 minutes with a car. Imagine yourself in our situation and then talk as much as you want.
By ending this conversation with you, I would just like to thank you, because we really tried our best to get a person from Gaza, and overall we hope that your life will become better, and thank you for this opportunity. We wish you the best.
Thank you so much.
Heading on to our next guest, Kareem Al-Mishal. Firstly, Kareem, we would like to appreciate you for joining us, and we have prepared some questions for you. Firstly, can you express your emotions to us?
First of all, Abdurrahman, I want to thank you for this invitation to this brand new podcast, and I'm really excited as it's a golden opportunity to talk about the Palestinian case. Lately, I've been suffering watching the news and watching my home city getting destroyed and demolished, and I really hope my family and my fellow friends are safe right now.
We wish for that too. Secondly, Kareem, how was life before the war in Gaza?
Well, people must know that Gaza Strip is a small, heavily populated region and the place of more than 2 million Palestinians. Accordingly, I spent my summer holiday in Gaza a few months ago, and I can say it was a unique experience in Gaza, as Gaza has a vibrant environment that showcases Palestinian traditions. However, the siege that has been in place for several years made the life of Gazans extremely difficult. This siege limits the ability to move freely, preventing them from traveling inside as well as outside of the strip, which was a challenge for me to enter Gaza. And this siege deprives the freedom of traveling totally, which is totally the opposite with anywhere else. Yet Palestinians in Gaza still show the desire, together with resilience, to develop their lands and ensure a bright and healthier future for the upcoming generations.
Thirdly, Kareem, from where do you maintain your daily resources?
Well, thank you, Abdurrahman, for this interesting question. And people should know that due to many circumstances, including the Israeli blockade that limits flow of resources into and out of the Gaza Strip, it can be difficult to find basic resources. Even basic resources, Gazans face difficulties in ensuring them for their kids. However, we get our daily needs from a variety of sources, starting with international aid supplied by UNRWA, moving on to local production despite barriers, smuggling through tunnels that connect Gaza and Egypt. However, these operations have since been stopped. And finally, imported products through Israel. However, as a result of political tensions, some items are not allowed into Gaza. Overall, these sources supply essential resources. However, the complicated process of aid distribution and the consequences of continuing wars makes it difficult to supply Gazans with compared to their needs. And additionally, the UN claims that before this conflict reaches this extreme and sensitive point, Gaza already needed billions of dollars in international aid to make up for years of Israeli restriction and destruction. And according to the World Food Programme, which claims that 63% of Gazans in the Strip experience food insecurity.
Lastly, Kareem, what are your main thoughts on October the 7th?
Well, I consider October 7th to be a significant and crucial day in the history of the Palestinian issue, as a result of the events that occurred on that day, which mirror the ongoing conflict that has remained for more than 70 years. A massive military operation was launched by Hamas resistance movement on the early of October 7th. The 7th of October tasted like a victory to me as a Palestinian living in Gaza, but I can suppose Israelis disliked to experience how oppressed Palestinians and taste their own medicine for a few hours, even though this operation targeted the Israeli army only. And now let's move on to Gaza, where there hasn't been any peace or tranquility since October 7th. The genocide is still in progress, and massacres of Palestinians are happening more often every day without any major actions being done by governments to call for even a ceasefire. However, this conflict has shifted its attention back to the Palestinian question and abandoned the Israeli narrative, which humiliates nations that back Israel. This Israeli narrative claims that Hamas is a terrorist movement that needs to be destroyed before the war concludes. However, how can a liberation resistance movement that rejects the occupation and is not as powerful as it should be considered terrorist? Nevertheless, they are unaware that resistance has evolved to an idea, and that ideas never really fade away. Furthermore, I want to finally clarify that Hamas will have a hard time recruiting resistance members if the Palestinians are fairly granted their rights. And even if the battle goes on, Gaza will only be as it has always been, a cemetery for its invaders, as Abu Ubaidah
إلا
recently
كما
stated.
كانت دوما مقبرة لغزاتها.
We conclude this episode of Voices of Resistance. Thank you for joining us in this brief exploration into the heart of Palestine. And just know that the stories you've heard are just a glimpse into the resilient spirit of people. Your presence in this journey is appreciated. Until next time, I'm your host Abdurrahman Al-Deeb, signing off of Voices of Resistance. Stay inspired and keep amplifying voices of resilience.